So today we are going to discuss about optical networks, and under that we discuss about evolution of various optical networks, then optical networking concepts, optical networking terminologies. So these are the things what we discussed. So coming to the optical networks, an optical network or optical fiber network is commonly referred to as optical network, and it's a telecommunication network with optical fiber as a transmission medium. So here the primary transmission medium is optical fiber, which makes an optical network, and it is designed in such a way that it can use the unique attributes of optical fibers. So we look into that, what are the attributes which are used by these communication networks. And considering the evolution, if I consider for last 20-30 years, then this optical fiber has become a preferred medium for major infrastructure, which includes voice, video, and data transmission. So this is a very important infrastructure preferred medium nowadays, and it is used because it offers a wider bandwidth, and it is less bulky in comparison with a copper wire or a copper cable. Then coming to the technological changes which was done in the telecommunication industry due to the rapid growth of internet and World Wide Web. So due to the usage of this internet and World Wide Web, so there is a technological changes or technological development which is in the telecommunication industry. Then with the implementation of more bandwidth intensive communication application, the requirement is for increasingly higher capacity network, so that more number of users can be connected to a particular communication network, wherein the capacity is very high, which makes use of a wider bandwidth. Then coming to the optical network technology, we consider there is a demand for efficient, cost-effective, and most reliable network, high service level, so which can provide a very good service and worldwide communication. So this is based on the distance what we cover over a global area. So we consider it as a worldwide network which is done using the optical fiber. And whatever we design the communication network using an optical fiber, it should be cost effective, it should be more efficient, it should be highly reliable. So that is the thing what we prefer to consider. And here we consider optical network evolution. So this is first generation, this is second generation, third, and so on. So presently we are into third or fourth generation, where we are going to consider most of the concept used worldwide. So optical network evolution identifies various generations of network deployment or the development what we consider in this. So this shows the optical fiber network evolution. Earlier we had SDH or synchronous digital hierarchy, or SONET, that is synchronous optical network, which is based on point-to-point link or the approaches of the early 80s and 90s, but they were upgraded later with WDM techniques, that is wavelength division multiplexing or wavelength routed network technologies, wherein we use one of the technique as wavelength division multiplexing. So the main contributing factor for the evolution is network structure or configuration. So that is a very important aspect or attribute what we consider here, network structure or configuration. Then we have the switching speed, and the optical enabling technology. So normally when we consider the structure of a network, it is a configuration, or we consider the other attributes such as speed or the switching speed. So based on these improvements which is done over a time or over a period of time, optical networks can be divided into three deployment stages or generations, which are identified as three or four generations. So present day optical networks were developed from point-to-point optical fibers, which are deployed over the last 2 decades, which can be viewed as a second generation, which uses a wavelength routing technology. These optical networks are currently static in the sense that are the allocated resources carry the traffic that cannot be reassigned automatically once the transmission has failed to reach a destination. So that is a drawback of using this earlier system, wherein the resources which are carrying the information or traffic cannot be reassigned automatically. So once the transmission is failed, so there is a problem with the retransmission that has to be done. So hence the existing network structures are largely not reconfigurable. Then network infrastructures with the individual wavelength link, which are operating at a transmission rates up to 40 Gbps, are deployed using wavelength division multiplexing technology. So that is what I considered earlier as wavelength routing techniques, wherein we are making use of this wavelength division multiplexing technologies. The next or third generation of optical fiber network is which can be used to exhibit a faster reconfigurable network features by overcoming the existing static network architecture. So that is very important concept what we consider. It should be fast. So switching speed we have considered earlier as an attribute. So it has to exhibit faster and it has to be reconfigurable. And this can be achieved by using enhanced optical switching techniques. The three modes of optical switching which can be used here is to increasing the operational speed and to produce a reconfigurable network, and they are circuit switching, packet switching and burst switching. So these are the three different network switching concept what we are using in an optical so in an optical circuit switching, we consider it as OCS. There is a path which is set up between a source and a destination. So initially the path is set up before the transmission takes place. So first we have to set up a path, then the transmission has to be done. And after the successful transmission of the entire message, the path will be removed. So once the path is established, transmission is done and the path is removed. So that is under optical circuit switching or OCS. Similarly, if I consider optical packet switching, here instead of considering the complete transmission process which is to be achieved in a single step, the message is broken into smaller units or packets, and each packet is sent on an established path. So that is the difference between OCS and OPS. And this packet what we consider which has to be sent on an established path contains the control information and as well as the addressing information which is regarding the destination. So where exactly the packet has to be reached. So that information which is addressing information and the control information about the destination is within the packet. Then we have optical burst switching. So this optical burst switching is a technique which lies between the optical circuit switching and optical packet switching. So this is the intermediate type of switching which is used here. In this particular switching technique, we have a message which is transmitted in the data bursts on an established path, while separate bursts of information are sent containing a control data. So here we see that the message is transmitted in the data burst on an established path, while a separate burst of information are sent which contains the control data. The switching setup time for the OPS mode is significantly higher than that of OCS. So switching time is higher in comparison with the optical circuit switching, and it can be assigned in microseconds. A very fast switching speed of the order of nanoseconds can be obtained using this OPS, that is optical packet switching. So that is very much faster, which has got a very fast switching speed in comparison with the OBS and OCS. In addition to this, optical packet switching offers higher utilization of resources as compared with the other two, that is OBS will have a moderate utilization and OCS will have poor utilization of resources. So higher transmission rate can be up to 160 Gbps, and that can be achieved using the optical packet switching, but the network architectures are more complex here. And the optical component technology for such switching network has not reached a commercial deployment viability. It means that higher transmission rate can be obtained using this sophisticated architecture, so that it makes the complexity more if I consider the OPS to increase the transmission rate. So that was about the evolution of optical switching systems or optical networks. Next, what we have is optical networking concepts or network concepts. So here we consider how the nodes, or here it is the sources or the users are connected worldwide using different configurations, different architectures, and with different switching speeds. So coming to the optical network concepts, a network which is utilizing an optical fiber as a transmission medium is an optical network, and it provides a connection between many users. So we can see here many users which are interconnected to enable them to communicate with each other, so that each user can communicate with each other by transporting information from a source to a destination. So here, from a source to a destination, we are going to transport a set of information so that each node which are interconnected can communicate with each other. And it may also require an intermediate stage, so to process the data for control operation. So here we see that we have an optical node, we have the optical fiber link, which is a physical link between the optical path, and here we see that there are logical links are called as light paths, and this lambda 1, lambda 2, so this represents the wavelength of the signal what we are going to consider. So this is an optical network structure. Thus each stage of information transfer is required to follow the fundamentals of optical networking. So these fundamentals essentially involve the methodology for the interconnection of various optical devices together with the operational procedures for successful transportation of optical signals between the source and the destination. So the earlier diagram what I just depicted there, it shows the structure of a simple optical network which contains the light path, which contains the optical node, which contains the optical transmission path. It consists of an optical nodes interconnected with optical fiber links. So it has got several optical nodes between which we can establish a communication with several optical fiber links. An optical node is a multifunctional element which basically act as a transceiver unit capable of receiving, transmitting, and processing, if at all required, on the optical signal. So the optical node will act as a multifunctional element. It can act both as a transmitter as a receiver. So it is a transceiver unit. Then optical fibers is providing point-to-point physical connections between the networking nodes. So that is a possible way of connecting two different optical points using optical links. And the point-to-point fiber links can be used to establish a logical links where the destination node can be reached by traveling through one or more intermediate nodes. So that is a possible way of establishing a connection so that the information transfer can be easily done between the nodes. So either the logical links where the destination node can be reached by traveling through a particular node once or through intermediate nodes, and it can be even in a single or a multiple hops. So that is a possible way of doing it. And ideally, for an uninterrupted optical signal to reach a destination node using multi-hops, Each channel is assigned a specific wavelength. So that is what we assign a specific signal wavelength for each channel from source to destination. So that is what we do for an uninterrupted optical signal to transfer from one point to another, that is from source to a destination. A signal carried on a dedicated wavelength from a source to a destination node is known as a light path, so that we saw in the diagram. So light path is considered with the two different signals here in the example, lambda 1 representing the wavelength of light 1 and lambda 2 representing the wavelength of light 2. So these are the two light paths in this particular case, and the data can be sent over these light paths once the connections are set up. So that is what we do once the connection is set up. So in addition, a controlling mechanism is also required to provide for data flow during its transmission in order to authenticate the entire data transportation. So that is what we require. The authentication is required in order to transfer the data from one point to the another between a transmitting and a receiving node. Based upon this simple optical network, the fundamentals can be divided into three broad areas, which are optical networking terminologies. So that is what we consider under various terminology concepts, functions, and types of optical network nodes and the switching elements. And finally, we come across the wavelength division multiplexed optical networks. Then further we move on to optical networking terminology. So here we have several networks which are using or employing optical fiber, which can transmit and receive using either unidirectional or bidirectional transmission method over a single same optical fiber. And there are certain differences in optical transmission techniques, but the fiber networking fundamental is going to remain same. So in order to receive and send the messages across an optical network, a transmission path must be established. So either to a switch or route the messages to their final destinations. So this is what we consider in order to achieve. So coming to the networking topologies or network topologies, we consider a bus topology, ring topology, star topology, or a mesh topology. So these are the various topologies or terminologies what we use in optical fiber as a network. Then we have network topology. The network structure formed which are due to the interconnectivity pattern. So that is known as a topology. So we consider the various nodes which are interconnected to each other, making an interconnectivity. So we call it as a topology, which can take a form of a bus, ring, star, or a mesh structure. So that is a possible way of having a topology. So it is a bus topology, ring topology, star topology, or a mesh topology. Figure shows these topologies where the circles represents the interconnected nodes. So we see that they are interconnected nodes. So in the bus topology, the data generally circulates bidirectionally. So we see that in the first topology structure. So in the bus topology, the data generally circulates bidirectionally. We see that it has got the bidirectional path. Then data is the input and removed from the optical fiber through 4-port couplers located at the node. So that is a way of locating a particular node and how the input is selected and how they are sent to a particular node through optical fiber. In the ring configuration, the data usually circulates unidirectionally. That is what we consider being looped through the nodes at each coupling point, and hence it is repeatedly regenerated in the phase and amplitude. So if I consider the optical star coupler which is forming a central hub to the network, which may be either active or passive. So that is what we consider here. Then in a passive operation, the star coupler at the hub is going to split the data in terms of power so that the signal is transmitted to all the nodes which are present in the path. So overall losses are primarily determined by the number of splits. So if I increase the number of splits, then we come across a split ratio, which is a type of losses which are incurred in the optical fiber link or a network. So with an active hub, the data is split in an optoelectronic star coupler, which carries out both optical to electrical and electrical to optical conversion, and therefore this process do not contribute to the overall network losses. So this is what we consider in the conversion process. The ring and the star topologies are combined in the mesh configuration to provide interconnections among the networking nodes. So it is referred to as full mesh network when each network node is interconnected with all the nodes in the network, or the full mesh configuration is going to provide more interconnectivity than the other three topologies in the given diagram. So we saw that in the previous diagram as well. So coming to the final conclusion of this particular network, optical networks can be implemented using either a single or a combination of topologies. So earlier we saw 3 to 4 different types of topologies. Either the optical networks can be implemented using a single topology, or it may be a combination of various topologies like bus and ring may be combined, ring and a star may be combined, or mesh may be combined, and so on. Coming to the full mesh topology, it is a complex one, as we saw that in the diagram itself. So it is used for a provision of a logical or a vertical topology due to its high flexibility and interconnectivity features. So that is a possible way of using it. Then we have a network architecture. So this provides for the implementation of networking functionalities in different layers of a reference model. So we have several layers which are representing a reference model. So the functions which are distributed here defines the communication task into a set of hierarchical layers within a standardized network architecture. Then each layer in this particular network architecture is related to a function in order that it can easily communicate with another user in a system. Then the ultimate purpose of this approach is to produce a network that can be physically and operationally interconnected. So the first part of that, and that offers large networking capacity while also ensuring network protection survivability. So the major functionality of the optical network physical layer is to provide appropriate routing and switching strategies within the optical multiplexed network. So that is the major functionality of the optical network physical layer. So this is one of the layer of a particular model what we consider, which is required mainly for routing and switching strategies. So networking modes. So there are two different networking modes in which a transmission path can be established, and they are referred to as a connectionless or a connection oriented networks. Coming to the connection oriented network, an end-to-end connection is set up. So generally they are referred to as handshaking. It is performed before the transmission is going to take place. So that is a connection oriented network. Then connection oriented network is also employing a bidirectional communication environment to initiate a connection so that both source and destination can communicate with each other. So that is the advantage of a connection oriented network, which can be used as a bidirectional communication path in a particular network. Once the path is determined, all the subsequent information and the data are sent, and from the destination it is received using an established connection. So there is no dedicated end-to-end point or end-to-end connections, end-to-end connection in the connectionless networking mode, and therefore no connection which is external or explicit connection is setup is required before the actual data transmission, and hence the transmission is launched onto a common fiber channel such as bus or a ring, which interconnects the networking modes. So the connectionless networking communication mode is often achieved by transmitting the information in one direction, that is from source to destination, without confirming the presence or readiness of the destination to receive the information. So that is one of the drawback what we consider in a connectionless networking communication mode. Here we are going to transmit the information in one direction, that is from source to destination, but it is done without confirming the presence or readiness of the destination to receive the information. In such case, if the information is transmitted, the information may not be received by the destination, since it may be the absence of a particular path, or it is not ready for the destination. It is not ready for the information to be received. So in such networks, both the addressing information and the data are organized in smaller blocks, and these blocks are known as the packets. So this is very much essential when we go with this type of networks. We require a proper addressing information and the data which are organized in small blocks. And each packet is assigned a unique number and it is sent in a sequence such that the destination mode can be reassembled to construct the complete message. So here we are going to use a process of fragmentation and segmentation. So not yeah, fragmentation and segmentation, where we are supposed to divide a particular information into blocks, and finally we are going to reassemble them to get a construct or to get or to construct a complete message at a destination. Then we have a networking switching modes. So switching can be achieved in different modes. This was discussed earlier in terms of OCS and OBS and OPS. So packet switching, bus switching, and circuit switching concepts. So here two primary modes are used: circuit switching and packet switching. Or this packet switching is also termed as a cell switching concept. Here, end-to-end circuit is required, which can be set up before establishing a connection in a circuit switching mode. So that is a possible way of having the switching process. All the specific network which are necessary for the switching are dedicated for a particular transmission during which no other transmission can access this resource. Furthermore, such transmissions are continuous and hence it is arriving in a real time process. And once the transmission is complete, the circuit is terminated and the resources become available to all the other users. So therefore, the circuit switching mode can be characterized as a continuous, selective, and a temporary one. Circuit switching is utilized in connection-oriented networks. So the packet switching or cell switching considers that it is a store and forward strategy where incoming messages, which are in the form of blocks, are forwarded to their corresponding destination. Sending or receiving a complete message in a single block, which require a process of buffering or a buffering stage where the information can be gathered before it is sent to the destination. It holds the data for a while. It is going to use a buffer and the information can be gathered there before it is sent to the destination. Alternatively, messages can be sent in small blocks. So that is packets or even smaller blocks, which are called as cells, which do not require any significant buffering stages. Hence, the message is divided into packets, which comprises various blocks of data with a tight upper bound limit, or a cell which incorporates a fixed length block of data. Packets or cells from many different sources are statistically multiplexed and sent to a destination. So that is what we consider. In statistical multiplexing, a fixed bandwidth communication channel is divided into several variable channels, and the desired or a requested bandwidth is allocated to each end user in the process. This is considered as a time division multiplexing or wavelength division multiplexing, where a fixed bandwidth is assigned. So finally, both packet and cell switching are applied in connection-oriented networks. Packets, however, are also employed in connectionless networks as well. Then we have a virtual circuits. So considering a physical circuit which terminates the physical medium on specific physical ports, a virtual circuit is a series of logical connections between a sending and receiving device. A virtual circuit is a connection between a source and destination nodes, which may consist of several different routes. And these routes can change at any time, and the incoming route does not have a mirror the outgoing route. So when the connections are set up in advance, based on the expected traffic patterns, these are termed provisional virtual circuits. In switch networks, however, where the connections can be set up on demand and released after the data exchange is complete, such connections are termed as switched virtual circuits. Then we have network routing. So routing refers to the process whereby a node finds one or more paths to possible destinations in a network. So that is what we call it as routing. So node has to find a particular path or more path to establish a destination. So in this particular process, control and data processing functions are performed, and they are performed to identify the route and to handle the data during the journey from the source to a destination point. A simple routing process, which is known as a control plane, is used here, and it comprises of three stages, which are neighbor discovery, topology discovery, and path selection. So these are the three stages of routing process, which is for a control plane process. So identifying a neighbor discovery, that is neighbor discovery, identifying a proper topology for the communication to be done using a topology discovery, and a path selection from source or destination. So neighbor discovery is the first step whereby the nodes in a network discovers the identity of the immediate neighbors and their connections to the neighboring nodes. So that is very important concept under the neighbor discovery. So it is the first step where the nodes in the nodes in the network discover the identity of the immediate neighbors and their connections to the neighboring nodes. Then topology discovery. Topology discovery is a process by which a node discovers all the other nodes in the network and how they are connected to each other. So topology discovery is a process by which a node is going to discover all the other nodes in the network and how they are connected to each other. So that is identified. Once the network topology is known, paths from the source to a destination can be determined using path computation algorithms or routing protocols. So this is done using this particular network topology. Then we know that a protocol is a set of rules, standard rules for data representation, signaling, authentication, and detection of errors, which are required to send the information over a particular communication channel. The control plane therefore acquires a particular reachability process information throughout the network. This reachability or routing information is considered by a routing protocol, and it is done using a forwarding table at which we identify what is the forward node from the node which is taken as the origin, which is used to identify a next node and outgoing interface to the another node to the destination part. So which contains the identity of the next node and the outgoing interface to forward the packets which are to a particular destination. In order to handle the data more efficiently, it requires an additional procedure which is known as a data plane. In the data plane, an optical node is considered which is used to forward the incoming packets towards their destinations by using the information contained in a forwarding table. So by using a forwarding table, we are going to forward the incoming packets towards their destinations. So this operation involves examining the destination address of the packets, searching the forwarding table to determine the hop or the next node or next hop, and the corresponding outgoing interface, that is the corresponding path, and then forwarding the packets on this particular path. So next we have modularity and scalability. Modularity defines the characteristics of a network which allows the addition or reduction of networking nodes in a modular fashion. So this modular networks therefore is going to permit the use of wavelength. That is, a wavelength reuse can be used here in different sections of the large optical network without causing the wavelength conflict. Then scalability is a property of a network which enables progressive accommodation of a large number of nodes and end user systems without incurring excessive overhead in the communication. It is one of the most important design aspects of any network or a protocol. For a network with a higher number of nodes, scalability becomes difficult to realize as a large number of alternative routes are available. So that is a major drawback of higher number of nodes. So we require a scalability to be done, but this scalability becomes very difficult to realize because of large number of alternative nodes which are available or alternative routes which are available in the network. So in such case, scalability can be achieved in several different ways, such as by employing a routing hierarchy or by performing route aggregation process. So these are the two different ways by which we can easily achieve a scalability process with a higher number of nodes or higher number of routes in a network. Both these techniques help contain the size of the routing databases. Then another common technique for achieving a scalability is to reduce the number of routing updates using a threshold scheme. So this is another technique or a common technique which is used for achieving scalability. That is finally to reduce the number of routing updates, number of routers or routing updates, which is done using several threshold schemes. So using several schemes, we are going to achieve maximum scalability using a particular scheme.